Hello. We're so glad that all of you are here today. I really, really, really appreciate it. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show. Here we are, everyone. I just put a question in the chat, and I want to know what you guys think. We're going to talk. I have a great panel. I'm really excited about this show. This show will not be a drag, or maybe, or maybe it will be. Is it JD Vance or is it JD Vance, the GOP vice presidential nominee who changed his name, we know, at least 4 times over the last 40 years, has garnered yet another moniker on social media following the leak of 2 alleged photos of him in drag, allegedly in drag, at a law school party. This is at Yale Law School back in the day when he was in law school. And speaking of social media, Donald Trump made his not so triumphant return to Twitter this afternoon ahead of his interview with Elon Musk. The move saw stocks tank for his, Trump social media company, the parent company of Truth Social. Trump Media tank, the stocks tank, and that's the parent company of Truth Social. And all of this while Vice President Kamala Harris continues to skyrocket in the polls. None of what they're doing on the Republican side seems to be penetrating or hurting the current vice president and presidential candidate Kamala Harris. We have so much to dig into. Fortunately, I have a fantastic panel to help us break it all down. Alejandro Caraballo is an American civil rights attorney, a clinical instructor at Harvard Law School, Cyber Law Clinic. Man, I need to talk to you. And a prominent LGBTQ rights activist. Yes, I know. So thanks for joining us, Alejandro. And also, Alejandra, forgive me for that. And then Abe Gurko is a best-selling author, producer, humorist, and the man behind the Substack column Won't Be Silent, a great friend of the show as well. So we're so glad to have both of you on. I am grateful. How are you guys doing today?
Alejandro, start with you.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well.
You're doing well? I mean, you've got a lot to talk about. This is right up your wheelhouse, Alejandro, so you should be excited about it or happy because it gives you a lot to do and busy as well. And you, Mr. Abe Gurko, how you doing?
I'm just enjoying the summer and, as you know, the joy that continues to emote from the Kamala moment that we're in. I'm still skiing on that stuff.
Are you still on your Kamala high? Can we call it that?
It's a Kamala joy. Because joy is something that we haven't really felt in our politics. Or speaking for myself, I don't want to say all of us, but for quite a while. I mean, since maybe 2011, 12. Once even Barack was kind of like he was kind of the end of his second term. It was kind of he kind of was just playing basketball. We were all like, oh my God. I just feel this is this groovy moment again. It's groovy. I haven't said groovy related to politics, I don't know.
Yeah, I similarly haven't felt the same since 2008. Like I remember I was 18 when Obama was elected, and I just haven't had this same feeling of excitement and energy, and just like the level of crowds as well. It's kind of crazy, but I really do like the bringing back of joy, because I think that is a theme, like joy versus resentment and anger. I think is really the top level themes I'm like here for this election.
So look, we got a couple of people in the John Young says Kamala Joy. Also, someone else says, Tanisha says Kamala Joy. I wonder how many babies are going to be called Kamala Joy, coming recently. There are going to be a lot of Kamala Joy babies. Okay, let's talk about what we're going to discuss today, because we have some juicy stuff. Look, and I'm not shaming anyone. Just know this, and I'm going to talk to you about this in a little bit, about being in drag, right? It's the hypocrisy of it all. And I think we can all relate to that. So this is what we're going to talk about. JD Vance's drag photos and the GOP's drag hypocrisy. Trump returns to Twitter. Harris continues to climb in the polls. So we'll talk about all of that. And you're going to hear from a lot of folks here, a lot of people. You're going to see Rudy Giuliani and a number of Republicans who are in drag, but they're a lot hypocritical when it comes to LGBTQ plus issues. Okay, so here's some context for you, okay? Former President Donald Trump's running mate, who is Senator JD Vance, is being called out for hypocrisy after an image emerged on Twitter of somebody who appears to be Vance dressed as a woman. For the record, the Vance campaign has not denied that it is Vance. They will not deny it. So are they confirming it by not denying it? They're not saying. Multiple former classmates have confirmed its authenticity to both my producers and to other outlets. Okay, so here is the Vance photo. The picture was allegedly taken at a party. It was in 2012 by one of Vance's classmates while he was studying at Yale. The image was shared within a group chat before being sent to activist Matt Bernstein by Travis Whitfield, a Yale alum. Now, Whitfield confirmed his role in servicing the image, writing on Twitter, quote, "I was the source of the photo, sent through friends to you. This was taken in 2012, the same time I was at Yale. Photo was taken by a classmate and sent to me. Thanks for sharing." Now, Alejandra and Gabe, again, I want to make this very clear. The story here is not that JD Vance once dressed in drag, all right? We've seen, listen, remember Some Like It Hot? This goes back forever. People doing it for movie roles, people do it for Halloween, people do it for fun, they do it for a number of different reasons. Some people are cross-dressers and they do it. Nothing wrong with drag or cross-dressing or rejecting the idea of gendered clothing, right? Remember, it used to be acceptable. Men used to wear dresses, right? So this is Tim and me. This is my husband and I from last Halloween. And personally, I think that we killed it as Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So, you know, I had never, not till I was in my 50s, did I ever do something like this. I didn't want to do it. But then when I did it, I was like, you know what? I look pretty good as Kamala Harris. I actually did it as Meghan Markle. I actually did Whoopi Goldberg too. So 3 years in a row. So it was fun and interesting. So it can be fun, perfectly acceptable way to express yourself. Look, I do not want to be a woman. I don't want to dress as a woman. It was a Hollywood thing. I'm a Halloween thing. I'm not saying that about JD Vance, but I'm just saying there is some hypocrisy here. So all that said, Alejandro, the story here, is it JD Vance's hypocrisy? What do you think of this whole issue?
Yeah, I think it also speaks to just the tremendous change as a person that he's undergone in the last 3 years to become this kind of terminally online, far right, connected to these kind of crypto fascists. It really speaks to, I think, particularly with Sophia Nelson speaking to how he showed up as a friend, like baked cookies or baked goods for them when they had top surgery. So JD was someone who was very comfortable having a trans friend, a queer friend, that they communicate all the way after law school until 2021. And then suddenly he decides he wants to run for Senate in Ohio, and he starts adopting rabidly anti-LGBTQ positions. He wants to support bans on gender-affirming care for trans youth. There's additionally like limitations on drag that have passed around the country. So it's really that kind of hypocrisy. And I think it also speaks to the deeper issue of just how much he's changed as a person, how much he's willing to just throw communities under the bus for his quest for power.
What do you think? Because people are intimating that there may be, you know, something, you know what I'm talking about, Abe. They're like, oh, well, he must be gay, or what do you think of this?
I think that,
or bi, or interested, or questioning,
I
or
mean, I think
closeted,
there's a bit of gay in everybody for at least one moment in their development to understand who you are and what you feel. And but even that aside, the thing about Republicans is that it constantly, and the church, it constantly comes back to these hypocrites who are pointing fingers at gays, and not just gays, just pointing fingers in general at minorities. And then yet again, like I said earlier, they'll be in a bathroom tapping their toe, trying to get a quickie in when he's just a symptom of the disease of whether it's closet or not. It almost doesn't even matter, because that's something kind of unfortunate and painful to think about. But
yeah,
I just think that it's indicative of that party and the church, and that it's just enough with the hypocrisy.
I think you're right. Is it because people are like, oh, you know how the kids call it being sus, right? Oh, well, he's sus, or whatever. And you know, it's so weird. If you've been in this in this digital space, I've learned so much about everything: politics, sexuality, bro culture. There are so many bros. All you have to do is just go on YouTube. So many bros who gay bait. you know what I mean? Or they can call it queer baiting or whatever it is, because, you know, they want to gain fans and subscribers and revenue by doing that. And they actually participate in the act and say that they're not gay. They call it gay for pay. Anyway, I'm not insinuating that JD Vance is it. I'm just saying that is a whole nuanced situation. And this is not necessarily about, well, I don't know, partially, maybe it's about sexuality. It is about hypocrisy. But for me, maybe it is a bit about sexuality. You know, I don't know. Abe, I feel it's worth mentioning, though, that drag hypocrisy, you know, if we can call it that, is nothing new for the GOP. Former Congressman, you remember Madison Cawthorn, right? Trump henchman and former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, former Congressman George Santos, all of them engaged in drag or cross-dressing at one point while saying terrible things about the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, look, we can put the pictures up. Madison Cawthorn, there's Giuliani, there's Santos. And so they're all, you know, but yet if a person who identifies that as that specifically, for some reason, it's okay for them to do it. But if someone actually identifies if that's their identity, then they become upset by it. And you know, what adds an additional level of scandal to this is JD Vance had a very close friend in law school, who Alejandro just mentioned, who is a genderqueer. Her name is Sophia Nelson. By the way, I spoke with her. She goes as either by any pronoun, he, she, them. She doesn't matter to her. Vance even delivered Sophia baked goods after her gender-affirming surgery. I had the privilege of speaking with Sophia about Vance, and that episode will drop tomorrow. But I want to play a quick clip about their history, and then I'm going to get you guys to weigh in. Here it is.
Had a close friendship with a trans person and labeled Trump a bad man, according to emails and text messages shared with the New York Times. Sophia Nelson, a former classmate of Vance at Yale Law School, shared around 90 emails and text messages between the two over the course of several years. In one exchange from June 2016, Vance apologized for referring to Nelson as a lesbian in his memoir Hillbilly Elegy. He wrote, "I recognize now that this may not accurately reflect how you think of yourself, and for that I'm really sorry. I hope you recognize that the description came from a place of ignorance. Love you. JD." Nelson told the New York Times that they fell out with Vance in 2021 when he publicly supported an Arkansas ban on gender-affirming care for minors. Since then, Vance has proposed a complete ban on gender-affirming care for minors across the United States. The leaked messages also contain some serious criticisms made by JD Vance about Donald Trump. In December 2015, Nelson wrote to Vance that a Muslim friend had said that women wearing hijabs no longer felt safe in the U.S. He responded to say he was outraged at Trump's rhetoric, but that there have always been demagogues willing to exploit the people who believe crazy shit. In October 2016, in the lead-up to the presidential election between Trump and Hillary Clinton, Vance called the Republican presidential candidate a bad man and a morally reprehensible human being. He added that, "I know I could never support Trump if it really mattered." In a statement to the New York Times, a spokesman for the Vance campaign said, "Senator Vance values his friendships with individuals across the political spectrum. He has been open about the fact that some of his views from a decade ago began to change after becoming a dad and starting a family, and he has thoroughly explained why he changed his mind on President Trump. Despite their disagreements, Senator Vance cares for Sophia and wishes Sophia the very best."
Okay, so Alejandra, I keep saying Alejandro, you can smack me. When you see me, just smack me, all right? Just call me. I'm sorry for doing, I'm sure, do people do that?
I think, well, usually it's because of the Lady Gaga song. So everyone's always heard that and they're just thinking that usually.
Look, I don't like to be hyperbolic, but the way JD Vance treated Sophia, I mean, is just, I thought it was awful. And again, that episode is going to drop tomorrow and you're going to want to watch it when I speak to her. But it almost seems soulless. What do you think, Alejandra?
Yeah, I mean, I think really just with Sophia Nelson and then just everything else, it just really speaks to someone who just has this craven lust for power, who is willing to abandon their friends. Because Sophia Nelson's not an isolated situation where he's done this with all of his law school friends. Essentially, they don't recognize who he is anymore. And so it's really, he's willing to abandon who he is, what he stood for years in a quest for power. I mean, all of this started in 2021 when he decided he was going to start running for Senate in Ohio, and it hasn't stopped since. And so I think it really just speaks to that. And, you know, just going back to the earlier point on additional people who have been hypocritical on drag, I think one of the other cases of this was out of Tennessee, where they actually passed a drag ban and the governor was found to have had a picture of him from the yearbook in drag. So,
right, I remember that.
This is there's a lot of instances out there as well.
I mean, but
I-
listen, do you think, I mean, Abe, hang on, stand by one second. I asked Abe about, do you think it's fair to be questioning JD Vance's sexuality, or because, you know, when they say thou doth protest too much, I'm I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. Some people are like, you know, I have great gaydar and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. What do you think, Alejandra?
I'm
I think
more.
like
Sorry. Go ahead.
no worries. I think in some with some of my friends in the group chat that were like kind of being like egg vibes question mark, which like for folks out of the trans community, like egg means like someone who hasn't come out as trans yet, but gives off like a lot of vibes like they're trans. We're just kind of joking. There's not actually any serious questioning of that, but like it's just a joke. And so I think like I think partially that does speak to it. I think it's a very similar dynamic where oftentimes like people who have a lot of internalized issues, oftentimes take it out on the rest of the community. And I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, in his memoir, he talked about what his Mima said about him, and when he was like, "Am I gay?" Like because he preferred hanging out with boys, and just like kind of just general questions any kid would have. And so I don't know. There's always been maybe some element of questioning there.
Yeah. So listen, one of my friends who is trans is in the chats, in these here chats, is Flame Monroe. Flame, let me know what you think in the chat. That's what I want to know. I want to know what you think about all of this. Do you think it's just fun? What do you think? Because I hear people, you know, I see people are putting up the egg emoji or what have you. So hello, Flame Monroe, says Sarah Habib. Flame, let me know what you think. And I'm interested in that. But yeah, I think there's so much hypocrisy because, yeah. I mean, usually this reminds me, remember the whole blackface controversy, right? And then we have all of these people now, all of these people who wore blackface, right? Whether it's Democrat or Republican or Democrat, there are people who did it, and then, you know, they got caught doing it. And look, I don't know if something that you did in college should be held against you forever, but if you are a politician, and again, if you are being hypocritical on issues that relates to something that you're doing, I have a huge problem with that. I don't believe in outing people, but people who are closeted or whatever it is, and then or come out as gay or whatever, closeted, and then they vote against gay LGBTQ legislation, I have an issue with that. I think that people like that can be outed. I'm just saying. Abe?
I think the problem for him is that he's young. So he was growing up in a culture where everything was very much more acceptable. It's when he decided to change his life that he had to, it's almost like he had to act like a boomer, you know what I mean? Because he has to have all these judgments against things that he was easily participating in. Even the fact that he would address the drug addiction in the book, and just, it's almost like he was part of a young culture, and then in order for him to succeed in that horrendous RIGOP slot that he wanted to put himself in, everything had to change. If he did, you know, it's almost like, I'm sure he's not making a statement about it because he wants to act like, oh, you know, it's nothing. But the thing is, it's only nothing when you don't judge people for being what you're actually acting out of. So it's almost like you can't have it both ways. Either you accept the community that you want to play with, which is fine because we're a playful community, or you have to kind of get, you know, your finger pointed by us for kind of daring to be something else that we know maybe deep down you're not. But it's just I don't live in that kind of dichotomy. I more pity people who can't come to terms with, you know, their truth. And yeah, if he wasn't so moronic coming out of the gate, this wouldn't be as big of an issue for us, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it should be? Look, as I said, I haven't seen mainstream media, and I don't want to harp on this, but I do think that they're uncomfortable talking about this. They don't think it's a big deal. They think it's beneath them or below them to do it. Like, you know, this is your specialty, Alejandra. Like, why do you think it hasn't? Because can you imagine if this was Tim Walz? Can you imagine what would happen? It would be breaking news, Fox News. Here is Tim Walz dressed in whatever. This just shows you that how far left he is. I mean,
they're already kind of doing that with him having sponsored a GSA in a high school. They're like already calling him a groomer because of that. So they only know one word. But yeah, no, I think it's uncomfortable for the media, particularly to address this, because there's nothing wrong with drag. And honestly, like, I think part of it like is like maybe JD should go to more drag shows and like actually meet some drag queens, actually meet the people that go here and like actually have a good time at these things. Like I was just at Pictures in DC this past weekend and just saw like just the most phenomenal drag women or drag queens, just like one was on a roller skate, like doing crazy athletic stuff and just having a good time. Everyone in the room was just having so much joy, like going back to that theme we were talking about earlier, just joy in the community, right? And I think like part of like the reactionary backlash is just this like lack of joy in people's lives, that they have to feel resentful to anyone else that can be who they are, be authentic to who they are, and just enjoys living life. And I think like, yeah, honestly, like I would hope JD could like express his gender in any way that he wants. Like, honestly, like good for him. I honestly think it would be better if people could just be free to be themselves more and not have to like confine themselves for political advancement.
But I think my new drag name is going to be JD Vance or JD Mance.
But the thing is, I think it's important that we do draw attention to it, because the mainstream media lets Trump get away with everything. He's got nobody calling him out on his constant lies. And for JD to do something that goes against his kind of what he's now stands for, I think we can't let these people off the hook. I wish everyone would drag Trump down for every lie he says, but this is almost like a lie. We're allowing him to get away with this if we don't at least mention it. I think it's just no one should skate away from their lives when they're acting against what they've already done.
Yeah. I see. Oh, look who's joining. Flame, are you there? Can you hear us?
I hear you and see everyone. Hello, panel.
Hi. Listen, Flame, thank you for joining us. I can call you a comedian and comedian and trans. You don't consider yourself a drag queen, right? You're trans.
Absolutely not. I am Flame Monroe. I'm a comedian that happens to be transgender.
So what do you think of this controversy? Is it because people are coming up with names?
Hold on. Is it controversy? Is it controversy? Or is it just the truth coming to the head? Because here's the thing. My problem ain't even that he got in drag. I have never had a problem with the drag. I did drag shows for years. That's not even it. The hypocrisy is you go at this is the same people that he's attacking, the drag queens, the LGBT community, bashing to push all these conservative rights of what he think a family is. But here, player, when we went through your peek through your blinds, we see that you did the exact same thing that you are so gung-ho against. The truth is, as a Democratic American, that I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris and for Tim Walz, I don't even believe that JD Vance is going to make it to the finish line. I think Donald Trump going to have a new episode of The Apprentice, and he's going to fire him before we even get to November. I do believe that. He's bringing down the Republican Party big time. Not that I'm mad about it. I'm happy about it because I want Walz and Harris to win. But he is really putting an ugly face on the Republican Party, and they don't need no more ugly on it. They got a whole lot of ugly over there. He's really helping our plight. He's really helping our plight.
I think you're right. I think, well, the longer it goes on, I'm not sure. Maybe after the convention, he might have a change of mind. I think if he's going to change horses in midstream, he's got to do it soon before he gets to the middle. It's going to be too deep.
And I don't even think this is what it is, Don. Donald Trump is a narcissist that likes all the attention. JD Vance is still in his shine. whether for better or for worse. He's stealing all of the shine from him. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I hope that we are rallied hard. I'll be at the DNC next week, and I'm going to be the prettiest girl up in there next Thursday night, screaming for Kamala Harris and screaming for Tim Walz, because this is the hypocrisy that we live in. We are living in the United States of America, but we allowed that last administration to make us the divided states of America, including this JD Vance. He's dividing us. If you do drag on the low, if you're a cross-dresser on the low, that is not even a bad thing. But to bash the same community that you are a part of, not the gay community, just cross-dress, because there's a lot of cross-dressers that are not gay or LGBT, they're just cross-dress. But he's going after them. I love that his egg is all in his face. I bet you it's a couch somewhere else.
I wouldn't doubt if Trump would change Vance during the Democratic National Convention just to try to steal some of Kamala's thunder.
I believe that. I believe that.
I think he's going to go with Haley because he thinks Haley's going to steal the woman vote or some of it from
the betting companies in Las Vegas are betting that she's going to run for president, that Trump's going to bow out for some reason.
Nikki Haley too wishy-washy. No. Let me tell you something. I like some of her policies, but the more she speaks, the further away from the White House she got. Just like Trump. If you give give Donald Trump a microphone for more than 4 minutes, he does more damage to himself than anybody else can do. All you gotta do is let him go. All you gotta do is let him go.
Well, you mentioned the what was it? Hold on one second, because someone's trying to call me. Hey Siri, turn on Do Not Disturb.
You're amazing.
So,
thank you, Abe.
So, Flame, you said, many members of the community are not LGBTQ, right? Do you think it's fair, because some people I see are questioning JD Vance's sexuality?
No, I said cross-dressing. I said cross-dressing does not make you part of the community. Listen, I don't even speak on the LGBT community, not for or about. Anything I say, they use to weaponize against me. I am he, she, we. I have my own pronoun. I am my own community. But what I'm saying as a voting American from the Democratic Party, watching JD Vance with the drag stuff, it may have been a college prank. It could have been that. The problem is not none of that, because when we are young, we do things that we may regret, or we look back on and say, I did that. The problem is now that you are in this position to possibly be the vice president of these United States, you are bashing the same thing that you did. That is my issue right there. I wouldn't vote for him anyway. I don't like his policies. I don't like his anger. I don't like the way he does not receive and see women. And that whole, if you don't have kids and cat lady thing, that was the nail in the coffin to me. That was bigger than the couch. You don't want to get me started on the couch. You got to see me on stage.
The couch is not real, right?
Yeah, I bet you that couch wish it wasn't real that night.
Flame, you know what? You are out of control, Flame Monroe.
Listen, I'm an American. I see it for what it is, and I'm telling you, this is what the energy. You know what I love, Don and Abe and Alejandra. I love that. But because I was against Joe Biden dropping out, I was riding with Biden until he said he was out. So when he stepped away, I'm full Kamala Harris. What I love is the excitement. We have not had this excitement since President Obama ran the first time. And I'm from Chicago. I was there. I was outside in Grant Park, and the people were flooded and loving and screaming, and there was a joy. And we have to keep this same energy all the way to November the 5th, because y'all already know it's going to be some mess in the game. I can't say what I want to say because I'm on Don Lemon's platform, but it's going to be some mess in the game. And I just want us to stay focused. The October fallout is coming. Remember Hillary with the emails, and then Bush with the foolishness. The October, they're going to make up all these stories about her, all this stuff, but we have to stay focused like a horse with blinders on and see the target at the end, which is to get her in so we all win. She sees women, she sees veterans, she sees community, she sees family, she sees Roe versus Wade. All of these things we need to make America very strong again, because great, yeah, no, but strong, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but look, I think what we need to start focusing on, and we will, especially on this program, obviously Project 2025, which is getting a lot of attention, but also what's happening in Georgia with the voting rolls, and in other places where they are, Florida, as a matter of fact, where people are being taken off of the voting rolls, right? Where people believe something surreptitious and something sneaky is happening behind the scenes to try to take or steal the election. And I think that's very real, that, the the people who are at the local level and at the state level are really in charge of these elections, and then helping to certify these elections, and they can actually do the damage in stealing the election. And I think all focus should be on Georgia, Florida, and other places where that can actually happen. So I think that you're right.
I agree.
It's not just about, all of the stuff that they're going to come up with against Tim Walz, like this whole thing that they're trying to talk about his, stolen valor, or that he somehow abandoned abandoned the troops and members of his squad or what have you. I don't know the right word. I'm not a military person.
So spending 24 years in the military, how could he possibly abandon the troops? These are coming from people who were not, well, especially Trump. Trump wasn't even in the military. Remember, he had bone spurs. The other one's in the military, but I think he was like a journalist or something. Listen, www.vote.org. It takes less than 2 minutes to check to make sure that you are registered, that your name is still on the ballot. Do it all the way up until the day of completion, because what you want to do is make sure that all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. If you go to the polls and somebody write with an ink pen on your ballot, you have the right to say, give me another ballot, because if you have ink pen writing on your ballot, it will be discarded. They're pulling out all the tactics, all the tricks. We don't have to be smarter. We have to be more focused on the truth.
Yeah. I just have to say one thing about Can I just say one thing about Project 2025? Because I've been talking about it for a year, and now it's finally entered the conversation. But I think as a concept, Project 2025, we have to be much more specific and identify 3 or 4 specific things that we really focus on, because it's like the word democracy. It's kind of this vague idea, but when you talk about losing your right to vote and losing your right to have an abortion, and you just really narrow down specific items from that project, I think it's going to be more effective to kind of enter people's understanding of what they're voting against.
Alejandra, jump in. This is a rowdy group. If you have anything to say, I want to make sure that you get, honored.
No, I mean, speaking of Project 2025, I remember seeing this a year ago and reading through it, and one of the first things they said is like, they want to ban porn, but then they define like porn as trans people, and saying that it has no First Amendment rights. So essentially, they're equating the existence of trans people to porn as something that they want to ban. And so, like this kind of goes along the same lines, where they're inherently trying to turn back the clock and repress like the LGBTQ rights, not even just a decade or 2 decades, but basically take this back to the 50s and back to the lavender scare. And I think like even just 2 weeks ago, the Olympics just wrapped up yesterday. And like 2 weeks ago, there was a whole satanic panic about the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And a lot of the same people who were saying that it was like satanic that they had a drag show at the opening ceremony are now suddenly like quiet or not saying anything, like JD's like wearing drag. And I think it speaks to this, just like how they weaponize queerness to go after our community. And it's very targeted and specific. And yeah, it's been just surreal, the kinds of ways that like drag has been targeted in the past few years. As a trans person, the way that they define drag, and oftentimes all of these laws, it would apply to a trans person just existing. We had a person in Montana, a trans author, who tried to just do a book reading, and they had to cancel her book reading because they were concerned it would run afoul of their like drag ban. So this is having real effects on people's lives, and I think it's just been like a horrific past few years in particular with the way that the community has been targeted.
And people talk about cancel culture all the time, especially the right. And it seems the right, that those are the only folks who are trying to really they're the biggest proponents of canceling people. Let's just have a little fun with this. Producers, if we can put those 2 pictures back up of JD Vance, because I spoke to a friend about it and I'm just wondering, what they thought. And this is one of my a conservative friend, but not a Trumper. And I said, what are your thoughts? And he said, I like the effort, execution, not as much.
I think he should have took some makeup tips from George Santos, because George Santos was a prettier drag queen.
It's the necklace for me, to tell you the truth.
It looked like a lot of these Republicans like to dress up as somebody else when they're not on the floor. I'm just saying. And I love what you said, Abe, about Project 2025. Now, the three that stick out for me is because I'm a Black American, that whole immunity to the police, that's number one for me. I have daughters because I am a parent. That's number two for me with the abortion rights. And number three for me is I want the John Lewis Act passed so Black people can have a fair shake in this country. Those are the three that are most important to me. Women, because my mother, my daughters, my sister, me as a Black person, I don't want the police to stop me because they had a bad day and I asked why you stopped me and then I'm done. My life is ended. I don't want that. I don't want those things in my life. And I want to be treated fairly because I'm a Black person, not because I'm a Black person, but because I'm an American. Now, I do want community to be shook, but I don't even speak on nothing but family community. I don't speak on anything else. I understand what Alejandro was saying, but I don't speak about it at all. It has no effect with me anymore, ever.
Okay, let me just say this. Someone said to me, a couple people said to me that they think that maybe these pictures were leaked by the actual Trump campaign or someone who is, sneakily behind the scenes doing it. Perhaps, in an effort to slow down his spiking unfavorable numbers, Vance sat for a number of interviews on Sunday, perhaps the most notable of which was with my dear friend, former colleague, Dana Bash. And I just want to play a clip from where he responds to the weird label that he has been haunted by. And for context, it was, taped and aired before the drag photos were leaked. So here it is. Let's play it.
Move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look.
Okay. I mean, come on. I wish I had the clip of the many times it's going around on social media of Melania Trump rejecting Trump many times, not wanting to hold his hand, just giving him a hug, missing his lips instead kissing him on the cheek. And
but Don, did you catch how he tried to redirect the word weird? Because they've been calling him weird. So did you see how he tried to redirect the word weird?
That's what did he say?
If you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. JD, if you can't wear a cute skirt, stay out of drag, because those clothes were terrible.
Yeah, that was bad. The necklace, horrible. Wait, but Tim took his wife's hand and grabbed her and gave her the biggest hug. So if you run that video, he's not even telling the truth. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's trying to this bizarre attack on Tim Walz and his wife. What's wrong with this man, Alejandro? I was like, wait, what is he doing? Like, I mean, why would you even talk about that?
Yeah, it was just the weirdest attack line. Like, I have no idea where that's coming from. And it's clear, like, even his attempts to try and pivot to policy aren't working. Like, he's trying to say, like, because one of the ways they've been trying to deflect this, like, weird attack line is by, again, bringing up trans people and saying, like, it's weird that, men dress as women or whatnot, which, we like, case in point with the photos of JD Vance. But, they're trying to pivot to policy and say this is weird, or trans people are weird, or LGBT people are weird, and it's not really working because people, like the vast majority of Americans, are not on the fever swamps of Twitter on the far right being inundated with constant homophobic and anti-LGBTQ propaganda all the time. And people just have no idea what's going on with this stuff, but they're inundated in it. So they think that's what everyone's talking about. Like, I literally sent my mom a text showing how like everyone's calling him Tampon Tim in reference to Tim Walz, because he signed a law that ensured free access to menstrual products for all high school students. And suddenly, like, I sent it to my mom, and she's just like, what does that have to do with anything? That's, you know, and then she's just like, these people are weird. And my mom is not online at all. And like, this literally was her first response. And I think that's exactly it, right? Because it's these like just ridiculous attacks that they have. And it just, like, it's just a vibe that everyone gets from these people, and they can't pivot and turn it around because it doesn't make any sense to attack these people on policy that is actually helping people.
Plus, it was Trump had a tampon on his ears, so if it's tampon anything,
no, Abe, you're right.
It looked more like a pad, but
it's all this projection. It's all anything they say is you have to find where they're guilty of. You know, it's like elementary school almost. You know?
Yeah,
it's like really childish.
I'm looking forward to Trump saying you're fired in the next 3 weeks. I'm looking forward to Trump reliving The Apprentice and saying you're fired within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to see again. I cannot believe that they're bringing this up, especially since, you know, it is reported by a number of different sources. Again, not our reporting, that they're, you know, barely even live in the same house. So I'm talking about the Trumps, right? And there's very little affection there. When at the Republican convention, she came on stage, she didn't say a word, Melania Trump, right? She just kind of stood there with him. It was a bit odd, but anyways, that's it. So listen, I'm going to try to find the clip of them because there is always a response to everything. They forget that there's history, there's videotape, there's digital stuff, there are sound bites, there are all kinds of things. Another notable development from over the weekend, yet another Harris surrogate, Congresswoman Dina Titus, took on Vance at a rally in Nevada over the weekend. Here's a clip.
By the way, I'm one of those miserable, childless cat ladies. JD Vance apologized to my cat, but he didn't ever apologize to me for what he had to say. So I got a word for JD Vance. You better hide behind that sofa because we're coming for you.
What do you think of that, Abe? I mean, you know, it seems he can't shake all these couch jokes that are going around. So, I mean, Democrats seem to be abandoning this sort of weird, you know, let's be holier than thou, and when they go low, we go high.
These things are just going to haunt him for the rest of his life. The cat thing, the couch thing, whether it's true or not, almost doesn't even matter. You know, the drag photos, those aren't going, you can't wipe those out. You know, the internet's forever. And, you know, that bad skirt's going to live on way into his, you know. That was a bad skirt, I agree.
It was a bad skirt. You know what's so mind-boggling, Don, for him to say something like that? JD Vance is from Middle America. I'm from Chicago. You're from Middle America, and you're not even talking to your people. You're reaching out to people who are not even you didn't grow up around these people. He is Middle America, but he's talking outside of Middle America, and he's talking out the side of his neck. I'm with you, Abe. All of this is going to haunt him. He won't make it. And he does not have the capacity and the policies. To me, all he is talking about is this abortion thing and woo. And I'm telling you, I'm hoping that I wish Joe Biden would go rogue right now. Since they call Joe Sleepy Joe and old and he's demented, I wish he would go crazy and just go executive order crazy on everything, flip over everything, and just cause chaos for the next 6 months since we already living in chaos.
Yeah, I will say the childless cat lady comment is one of those things that, I mean, I don't think there's anything else that's angered more women in this country than that comment, because it speaks to real pain that women have had in trying to get pregnant and trying to conceive and have children, and have had to resort to IVF and alternative ways to get to conceive. And just labeling him in that way is so dismissive. And then attacking Kamala in that Dana Basha interview, he tried to attack her about that. And she's a stepmom to 2 kids, and to attack someone as not having had children themselves, but acting as a mother and a stepmother to 2 kids, I think in a country with as many divorces and mixed status families where, people have gotten divorced, they've gotten remarried, it's really kind of despicable to go after someone in that way and question their motherhood in that way. And
especially because she came into the, when she was becoming like part of the culture, she said, I'm like Kamala. She was a mom in the way she even said her name. It's just unbelievable.
But why would they? I don't understand why they're going so low with this, especially when you consider how they're attacking and questioning someone's service, their military service. I mean, to me, it's just gross. I have been saying, Alejandra and Flame, that I think the Republicans, MAGA this time around, which is, has taken over the Republican Party, that they're running a campaign and a strategy that is really old school and that is not resonating with the American people, except with the extreme MAGA right wing. Am I wrong on that? I mean, listen, what's his name? The pollster just Friday told me the same thing. Frank Luntz said the same thing without me even prompting him to do it.
Yeah, I think the issue is that hardly anything breaks through anymore, right? We had an attempted assassination on former President Trump just a few weeks ago, and his approval rating numbers, his polling numbers have barely moved at all. And then Kamala, jumped into the race a week later, and she skyrocketed. But basically, nothing is really breaking through anymore, and so it's really difficult to try and pivot quickly to attack a newer candidate in this way when they're unable to break through and get those kinds of attack ads through. And so for me, it's really interesting because they're flailing about trying to have something that sticks. And I think they think that like the weird line was intentional or whatnot, and maybe it was by Tim Walz, but the way that it caught fire because there was a vibe about it, right? Like it matched a vibe that people were already feeling and getting, and you can't make this stuff happen. Like the couch thing was, entirely made up. It was a shit post on Twitter that someone did, and it just went from there. Now people are referencing it. But at the same time, like it just kind of spontaneously and organically caught fire. And I think they're trying, it's like going back to like Mean Girls, like don't try to make fetch happen. And that's what they're constantly trying to do. They're trying to shoehorn all these things. And like the attacks on Tim Walz's service are just despicable. I mean, the man gave 24 years of his life to the National Guard. And as much as I dislike JD Vance, he served his country as well and served 4 years. And for me, it's like, if you're willing to put on a uniform, like no one should criticize that. And so I think that should be off limits. But, we're talking about a candidate that in terms of Trump, that, belittled and denigrated John McCain's service. And as someone disagrees a lot with what John McCain stood for, I mean, he was an undeniable hero during his service in the Vietnam War. So I think, it's really low to do that, to go after someone's service in that way and then to attack Kamala.
Alejandro, I agree with you on that. But as an American citizen that has lived in a very diverse world, because I've worked with Black people, white people, Latino, Asian, I've been friendly with everybody. I personally believe that even Caucasian Americans, I want to say white folks, let me just say it the way I say it on my podcast, Laugh and Learn. White folks are tired of living in all this chaos. Racism ain't going nowhere. Racism will be here. It's going to be here. But this chaotic nation that we are living in, so the people are sick. I live in a very affluent Caucasian community. My neighbors are all Trump supporters. They are sick of the BS. I talk to my neighbors. they said that they don't want to live like this anymore. They are lifelong Republicans, but they cannot vote Republican because they sick of the chaos in the country. They want us to go back to our respective holes where we live and just live and where we can coexist. I really believe that that is what America wants now. Not all this. Now he has his base. His base is going to be there. They are who they are, and I love to see the people on TikTok say, "Did you know that Joe Biden said that he could grab women by the woo-ha and woo-woo?" And they say, "Yeah, he's not for it." And then the guy says, "Oh my God, I made a mistake. I meant Trump." And then they come with a whole nother.
Yes.
Oh no, I don't
There's
think
a
he
whole
said.
nother
I
thing.
absolutely love the ignorance of his following.
Yes. So that brings me to something that I wanted to talk about a little bit later on. Can you hold that thought on this whole idea of negativity versus positivity, light versus dark? Because I think that's very important. And I wonder why Trump is doubling down on that, probably because he's playing from his strong hand, but we'll talk about that. But let me just play this to show you the hypocrisy of JD Vance and why he's just really bad at this. And whoever is advising him on this should not be advising him. Let's roll this and watch this if you want to talk about affection between husband and wife.
That's my airman station. That's not even her.
I mean, come on, guys. I'm just saying, you know, some things you just leave alone. That's all.
If he's that cold, if she's that cold in public, I know that bedroom is freezing. That's why he had to spend $130,000 on Stormy. Let's just call it out for what it is. Now, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. If she's that cold in public, it's icy in that bedroom.
Bedrooms, plural, because they are not sharing a room. I'll tell you that.
All right. Allegedly. Allegedly. For all of it that's what I'll say. Listen. So let's move on. So Vance can't shake the couch joke, so we got that. So I don't want to pivot now to ever so slightly because what I said at the top of the show, Donald Trump has returned to Twitter. I don't know. Do people care? I have no idea if people care that he's returned to Twitter. Let's put up his Twitter return. In his first post in approximately a year, he wrote, quote, "Are you better off now than you were when I was president?" A lot of people were responding saying, yes. I'm sure he was surprised by that. "Our economy is shattered. Our border has been erased. We're a nation in decline. Make the American dream affordable again. Make America safe again. Make America great again." Okay, so here's the thing. Inflation went up under Trump. The debt went up under Trump. The economy was not as good as it is under Joe Biden. I don't care what people say. That's a narrative, but all you have to do is look at the facts. Crime is down under Biden. So I don't know what he means by all of those things. Alejandra, you have a big Twitter following. What do you make of the former president returning to the platform and cozying up to the platform's owner, Elon Musk?
Yeah, I think my first reaction was, wow, he's got to be really desperate if he's coming back to Twitter in this way and posting for the first time in a year. And really only the second time, like now he's been tweeting all day, but not under his name. It's very clear this is being run by his campaign. But, you know, he has a big interview tonight at 8 o'clock. And already, like, this is making a ton of noise because the EU, one of the commissioners there sent a letter to Musk regarding disinformation on the site, particularly its role in inciting essentially pogroms in the UK last week. And, you know, Elon's already in a lot of hot water with what's called the Digital Services Act, which is called the DSA in Europe, which is a set of rules and laws set to regulate social media and digital services online. And they have the power to remove 6% or take 6% as a fine of global revenue from Twitter, or even completely suspend Twitter from the EU. And Musk decided today to just put gas on the fire and personally like put a movie quote from Tropic Thunder from the Tom Cruise scene, like responding back to this commissioner. And it's like, one, it was just childish, but like part of it was a concern of this interview with Trump tonight. Like, you know, in a live platform like this, being pushed by the richest man on the planet, owning one of the largest communications platforms, for the danger for disinformation and misinformation to spread. And I think that's a particular risk. But yeah, I think just generally my take is that both of these people have to be desperate, not just Trump, but Elon, because he's desperately trying to turn X around and get revenue again.
Do you think, Abe, that it's a good or bad move for Trump to return to Twitter in earnest?
I think anything he does is bad. I don't think there's anything that there's nothing he's done that's really been good from the perspective of someone who's like a Democrat, who's gay, who's just trying to like not be like a victim to the rhetoric that he spews out. So I think I was bounced off Twitter years ago for having a fight with Candace Owens. So I don't like really miss it. I found other platforms to have my community and kind of core, so I can look at it, but I think anything he's doing is going to ultimately just fan the flames of his psychotic followers. And it's not going to change any new viewers. It's like,
yeah,
who's he engaging with that? The same thing that he just tweeted is what he said for the most part, at that psychotic press conference. Like, it's all the looking at America as this negative state of being where I mean, don't look now, but there's millions of people very joyous. You know what I mean? Don't get in our way because we're grooving here, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know who he's preaching.
Blaine, you wanted to get in?
I want to know that. Well, I'm very excited about the debate. First of all, between him and Kamala Harris on September the 10th, and I hope that she comes out. We know who he is. I don't need her to attack him. I need her to remind him and remind the American people of the promises he made.
We finished the Twitter thing tonight, and then we can talk about that. But what do you think?
Okay, yeah. With Twitter, Don, he's grasping at straws. He has to salvage everything. See, the problem was with Biden. When Biden was there, the Republicans thought that they had it in the bag. Biden is shaky. He's like that rickety chair that your grandmama tell you don't sit in. But then Kamala then came with this new gust of wind and all of this excitement. So they're going to do anything. They are desperate right now. I agree with what Alejandro said. They are desperate for anything to try to hold on to the base that they have. But a lot of people are pulling a Molly Brown and they're jumping ship because they don't want to sink. And you know they don't want to sink. So they are saying, let me listen. They're choosing country over party, which is very important. It's very important that these people are lifelong Republicans and they just don't want to live in all this foolishness. So him going back to Twitter is to try to hold on to the ones that he have already put in their brains that he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And some of them believe it.
Okay, one more thing on Twitter. I want to play one of 3 campaign ads that Trump released today on Twitter. Here it is.
Final battle. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media, and we will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
Well, she didn't have to do hair and makeup for that run, you know.
I got a question. I wonder, was he facing a mirror as he was saying that? Because he was talking to himself. But all the things that he said, he was talking to himself. He is all those things that he said.
He wasn't saying it. It was a voiceover. He was just walking.
Yeah, I wonder was he walking and looking at a mirror.
You mean, oh, okay, yeah. So listen, but this was my question, though. I mean, he is happily allowing this. It seems that Trump and his folks, this is becoming the sort of campaign of negativity, a hate election, a light versus darkness election. I'm wondering what you think, because we were talking about in the beginning about Kamala Joy, that, you know, they try to criticize her for laughing, and people say, you know what, I'm so glad to see laughter back in fashion, especially when it comes to politics. So I'm wondering, I mean, is it actually hurting them by going so negative, as Flame said? And I'll let Flame weigh in a second, because I know she has a lot to say. But Alejandra, I think that you kind of put the nail on the head when you talked about this. It's why are they going so negative? I don't think it's resonated. I think people are over it. As Flame said, I'm over the negativity. And most people are.
I think that's absolutely it. I think most people, just as a country, I think we're collectively traumatized over what happened with COVID, during the pandemic, just everything that's happened for the last few years. I think a lot of people are suffering from almost like a collective trauma. And I think now, as we're getting further and further removed and had time to somewhat process that, and like things are getting pretty much back to normal, I think people want that sense of normalcy again, and they want just something. They want something positive to look forward to. They don't want this constant doom and gloom, because we've been living it for years already. And I think people want to feel hope. They want to feel joy again. People, like, I think that's one of the reasons why, like I said earlier, things aren't breaking through. I think things aren't breaking through because people aren't spending as much time on their phones anymore. They're not on social media as much. All of the social media platforms are losing engagement. People are getting back out into the real world and actually talking with people and going out and doing things, and all of those things. And when you take those vibes all together, it just really seems like it is that like joy, positivity, wanting something for the future to look forward to election versus this kind of backwards looking campaign that's just filled with anger and resentment. And I think people are just kind of over that at this point.
Yeah.
So, Flame, you think that's going to be enough? Because look, I know, a lot of Republicans, I know some MAGA people or whatever. Do you think that there's all this excitement, right, and all this positivity, but you need all the excitement and positivity in just a handful of states in the right places? Just because you see it all around the country, we know that the popular vote doesn't really matter, right? It's all about the Electoral College. So you think that penetrates in the places where it needs to be, where it needs to happen?
I think if Kamala Harris gets out into the people, when I was a kid, I never had no interest in politics. You know who got me interested in politics? Bill Clinton on his second term. Something about a blue dress and the Oval Office and a stain, But
why did that get you interested?
Listen, but I think I remember watching presidents on TV going out to shake hands, kiss babies, engage with the American people, to remind us that I am your leader, but I'm not your leader. I am with you. And Kamala is going to show people that she is with us, because Trump always seemed like he was above us. He always seemed, and it's not that I even hated all of his policies. I can't even think of one that I agree with, but not that I hate it all. But Kamala is with the people. If we are the United States of America, and we are American people, we need somebody who's going to be our mouthpiece, that speaks with us and for us, not above us, not behind us, not below us. I love the statement that Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. But we're playing, these Republicans are playing real dirty right now. Well, I'm sorry, the Trumplicans are playing real dirty right now. When they go low, we should get high and take their ass down the hill. That's what we should do, because that's where it needs to be. You have to meet people where they are. If they in the dirt, get in the dirt with them to let them know I am an American, and you will not take back my America. As they said, we're not going back. I ain't going back. I ain't going back.
Abe, you were talking to me. We had a conversation about even people who are lifelong Democrats, right? In blue places like California, you're hearing, oh, I can't vote for Kamala Harris because, they don't really have a reason. They just don't like her. And we know what the reason is. There are a couple of different reasons, but they can't really articulate them.
Yeah.
I live in a very blue, but there's a lot of Republicans here too. And I am walking my dog, and I find myself wanting to have conversations, have them understand that I don't understand how you can vote for someone who's a lying criminal. I mean, how do you justify that? What policy could possibly make you just not accept the fact that he's a criminal? We've come to this point where I'm able to make people understand their mistakes by thinking that that's a choice to go vote for him. I mean, there's Trump rallies in Beverly Hills, the craziest thing. But they're elected, but that's a minority. And I just think that as long as he is a criminal, that we have an argument from the start. I mean, you're coming from a good starting point to say why not to vote for that guy, you know? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to change people either. I'm here to engage the ones that needs to register, or that historically since 20 or 22 might have been couch potatoes and not voted, that are Democrats, that are going to see what's at stake in this election. And I think we're going to get it. And as for the margins, I think that negative campaign, if you're a new parent living in one of these suburban areas, in whether it's Arizona or even Michigan and Pennsylvania, you don't want to look at this kid that you're bringing into the world to be like some kind of schoolyard bully. It goes against goes against your Christian Judeo philosophy of how you were raised. It goes against the hypocrisy knows no bounds. So I just think we got this, but we have to stay vigilant and militant.
Let me put this up, and you guys can respond, because it's somewhat related. Because listen, there's a whole lot of misinformation going around, and a whole lot of people who are misinformed. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Trump's latest attack about Harris, that he's claiming that her campaign is using AI to fake her crowds. I'm not sure if we have the pictures of that, but I mean, he posted on this Truth Social quote, "Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the Detroit airport? There was nobody at the plane, and she AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers that they didn't exist." I mean, he's losing it. They're losing it as well, because they're putting this out here. They're actually believing him, and they're believing that, or maybe maybe their folks truly believe that. But we saw it live. We carried it live. We saw the crowds. You know, they got the crowd estimates from the official. Like, what gives here? What were you going to say, Alejandra?
I just think, like, part of it, this is Trump's ego not able to comprehend reality, or even accept reality at this point, because crowds have always been his big thing. I remember the first press conference in 2017 after he was inaugurated was about his crowd size at the inauguration, right?
Yeah.
Like, this has always been his big thing. And this is now like the first time, because in 2020 it was during the pandemic, so there was no rallies like this. And the one big rally Trump had, like, he lost one of his supporters, Herman Cain, who died of COVID that he caught there. But, you know, regardless, this is the first time Trump's actually had to go against someone who can actually draw crowds, and not just big crowds, but just raucous crowds. I remember watching right after, you know, Kamala's first rally after she was announced that she was going to run, and after Biden dropped out, and it was in Atlanta. And they were just, you know, obviously Megan Thee Stallion was there and Quavo, but they were playing Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. And the entire audience was just singing every single word. And there's the line in that always reminds me, it's like when Kendrick says, "Notice I said we, because I'm what the culture's feeling." And I really feel like that's exactly what it is with Kamala. Like, she's what the culture's feeling right now. And she's getting, like, just seeing those kinds of vibes at the all of the rallies, not just the size, but just how passionate the people are there. Like, for once, people have something to vote for. And these are all in swing states. All of these rallies have been in swing states over the last 2 weeks. And notice Trump has had basically one in Montana. He's not out there. He's not on the road. And like that's going to cost him the election if he doesn't go out there and actually campaign for it like Kamala is. But yeah.
Oh, right? Now he's the old man. Now he's the sleepy old man. But the media doesn't even talk about that. When Joe was in the running, it was the sleepy. He's tired. He's old. He's discombobulated. Trump just froze for 21 seconds, I believe it was, yesterday speaking at a rally. But they keep editing it out to show that he's cognizant. He's this great. And then here's the killing part for me, the whole panel. I want to tell y'all this. You can't even fault Trump at this point. Trump has one vote for himself. His name.
Not this time.
People
Not
who
this
support
time.
him.
He's a felon. He can't vote in Florida nor in New
Well,
York.
but what I'm saying is that we can't even fault him now. It's the people who are supporting him. And I want to remind all of you all who think that your vote doesn't count. In this election, let me show you how fair this election is. Elon Musk, who's the richest man in America, and Flame Monroe, who's not the richest queen in America, our vote has the same weight. Your vote has the same weight as the richest man or the poorest man or poorest woman. Use your vote. Get your butt to the poll. It's not over till it's over, and we got to make sure we're there. The fat lady ain't singing. I'm watching on a 600-pound life right now. She ain't singing. She laid up in the bed. I'm watching it.
And with that, thank you all. Thank you, Flame Monroe.
You know I love you, Don.
Comedian, you as well, the he, she, we trans comedian. Thank you, Alejandra Caraballo, American civil rights attorney, clinical instructor at Harvard Law School, Cyber Law Clinic, and a prominent LGBTQ rights activist. And also Abe Gurko, who is a regular on the show, best-selling author, producer, humorist, and the man behind the Substack column, Won't Be Silent, and a great, as I said, a great friend to the show. I'm so glad that you all can join us. If you are watching, if you're in the chat, make sure you hit the thumbs up. The name of the book is what, Abe Gurko?
Won't Be Silent. Don't stop till it matters.
Don't stop till it matters. Won't Be Silent. Make sure you go to wherever you want to go. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever it is. Make sure you pre-order my book, okay? And all of you on the panel, go do it right now. I want
a free copy. I ain't got no money.
Oh, you got more money than me. You just sent me an invitation to where you're playing. You send me every time you play somewhere. You got loads of money. So thank you very much.
Look, I'm like Abe.
Huh?
I'm like Abe.
Thank you. Alejandro, thank you. I really appreciate it. I hope you come back more often. You know, you see these two crazy people, they're always here. And so here you go. So thank you guys. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like, and subscribe. We appreciate it. It affects the algorithm. And thank you everyone who supported independent media during this broadcast. And always, I appreciate you joining. I'll see you guys on Friday. Oh, and make sure you tune in to Sophia Nelson. It's going to drop tomorrow. It is JD Vance's trans friend, and you don't want to miss it. It is a very, very former trans friend, I should say, from college. It's a very enlightening conversation. You don't want to miss it.
Late breaking entry. I just got an email at 8 o'clock tonight. There's Christians for Kamala Zoom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you see that? Christians for Kamala. Genius.
All righty. Join the call. Even if you're a Jew or Muslim or whatever, you too can join the Christians for Kamala call. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Thank you, Lemonheads. I appreciate it. Be a part of the Lemon Nation as well. Bye. Have a great evening. Be safe.
Bye.
Toodaloo.